The 49ers find themselves in position that they haven't been in quite some time, needing to pull off an upset on a football Sunday. Plus, Kyle Shanahan said something in his press conference today. Let's just say he answered a question a lot of people wanted to ask. Not sure if they're going to like the answer. You'll hear it on today's Gold Standard podcast, brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. Good, everybody. Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He is 11 Black. 11, doing our show a day early this week, so I'm not going to get the chance to say it tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy all the wonderful pies that come with Thanksgiving.
Pie is trash, and everyone knows it. And you heard me out there. I said what I said, and I will stand 10 toes down.
Yeah. Your pie might be trash because it's got a bunch of gross stuff in it from you wearing your shoes in the house.
No, we don't scrape our ingredients off the floor. That's for sure. Got a lot to get to on today's show. Want to talk about the Bills game, of course, the game coming up, Sunday Night Football, all of that. But Kyle Shanahan did have a press conference about 10 minutes ago. So we're going to talk about that because he was asked a really interesting question. The Niners added an offensive lineman to the practice squad, which doesn't say well about a possible return of Trent Williams. So a lot to get into today. What do you want to start with? Do you want to start with the Kyle stuff?
Sure, because there's a couple things in there that I didn't really like. Some of that is just the fact of the situation with injuries, and some of it is what Kyle said.
Okay, let's start with Kyle. He was asked the question that I actually tried to ask this week on the conference call. I joined the conference call. I asked it, but other people were talking at the same time, and, you know, he didn't hear it, or he wanted to answer somebody else. I don't think it was anything nefarious, but it couldn't get through, just given the nature of the thing. But I think it was Eric Branch who asked, how would you grade yourself? Here was Kyle Shanahan's answer.
That's up to you guys to grade me. I worked as hard as I can to get a win that week, and we haven't won as much as I believe we should have. We've lost 3 games that I feel we were capable of winning and should have won. Those are the ones that are the toughest. In terms of grading myself, I'm not going to grade myself. I'm going to work as hard as I can, and I'm the same guy I am right now that I've always been. We got to overcome some things that we're in right now, and I believe we can overcome them, but we put ourselves in a tough bind, and that's why we got to be extremely good and successful here going forward to be able to overcome that stuff.
All right, Levin, your thoughts?
The first thing I took from that was him saying 3 wins he thought they should have, that they don't. Okay, so you're saying your best case scenario is 8-3? Well, that's a change from years past, because best case scenario has always been we're undefeated.
Well, not only that, but it's like, okay, so you didn't expect to win the Chiefs game, right? Because the 3 wins, he didn't say which 3, but I would assume it would be all the division losses, right?
I don't know which 3. I mean, there's 4 games that have come down to the wire, essentially. Obviously, the Chiefs game, yeah, you can't think they were going to win that. He might have going into it, but it's clear that they were not up to snuff that day.
100%.
But I do find it interesting that is a bit of a change of tune. It's him admitting the team is not as good as it was.
I think they admitted that at the trade deadline when they made only a minor deal. We've seen this team get very aggressive. I said it at the time. I said it before the deadline. Like, you'll tell what they think of this team in their heart of hearts by what they do. And I didn't disagree with that. I actually think that was the right strategy. Keep your assets to try and build it up. But I thought that was a smart answer from Kyle Shanahan, right? Because he can't say, oh, A+. I give myself an A+. Like, that would be absolutely terrible. At the same time, he's not going to get up there and say, I've been awful this season. Like, he just said, it's not up to me to grade it. And I do agree. And I agree with what he said. He's the same guy he's always been. And I think some people are going to say that's the problem. But I thought it was an answer that made sense. But I'm glad he was asked it, because I think it's a completely fair question to ask, as this team sits where they sit, dangling at the very edge, hanging by their fingernails for a playoff berth.
It was an okay enough answer. I mean, you sidestep it, essentially. There is one answer that I would have liked more, but I never will expect Kyle Shanahan to do it, because he would have to take accountability. He could have said, a wise man once said, you are what your record is, and what your record is falls on the head coach. Right now, our record is not where I want it to be. Don't go giving an actual grade, but just admit we're not where I want to be. And ultimately, a coach is what his record says it is. More than any other person in that building, what the record of the team is falls on the coach.
He did say we're not where we want to be, but he didn't say that other part that you're asking about. In terms of some other questions in the press conference, Jesse Naylor of Last Second Sports, what's up, Jesse, brings this up. He was asked about Christian McCaffrey, and Kyle's answer essentially was, as Jesse says, nobody should have expected him to be the offensive player of the year right away while he gets back, which is true. But as Jesse points out in the comment, you're using him as if he was that. So that is the, what's the word? Paradox? It's not really the word I'm thinking of.
Contradiction and paradox.
Yeah, contradiction. So that is seemingly contradictory. Now, he could say he needs the reps to get back into the game shape, but at the same time, the team is not really in a position where they could give away reps to somebody that might not be able to perform the way other people would be able to perform.
Yeah, that was the one question in the press conference that got me to actually bother to send a tweet. And I said, I reacted the same way Jesse did here. I said, you know what you do when somebody is coming back from a lengthy injury and isn't quite themselves yet? You work them in slowly. He should have been splitting reps with Jordan Mason. But in that answer, he said, we are not a split reps team. Okay. Right. Well, that just shows how stubborn he is, and his stubbornness is costing this team. Because you could argue they could have won last week if Jordan Mason got half the carries. There is an argument there.
I don't think
it was a close game, but the simple fact is, in that answer to that question, he contradicted himself, because he started out by saying Christian McCaffrey is playing great. I only have seen 2 runs that he could have done something with that he didn't.
Yep.
But then he goes on to say he's not himself, and it's unfair to expect him to be himself after 9 months off. It's like, okay, so clearly the truth of the matter, what you said to start, is all the bullshit you're just saying because you don't want to call him out. And that second part, when he says he's not himself, is the truth of the matter. Christian McCaffrey is not Christian McCaffrey right now.
I think that when he says there was only 2 runs, what he's really, like, if you read between the lines, he's saying the line did not block that well. I
Correct.
think what he said, or what he meant, was like there were 2 runs where he could have done more and maybe would have if he was in top form and didn't. And that's what I think about the offensive line. I think that their run blocking has been so bad that could Jordan Mason have done more than Christian McCaffrey? Maybe. But I think the lack of performance in the ground game recently, and they have been bad, I think it has way more to do with Brendel and Banks mucking it up than Christian McCaffrey screwing up plays that are blocked well.
That is certainly true. The major problem on this team is the offensive line. And whose fault is that? Remind me.
Well, it's the fault of Forrester and Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. Mostly, Forrester deserves some blame. We have seen opponents, I'm trying to remember who it was, say that they know the Niners will not adjust their blocking scheme based on what we're doing. So they're going to just go right at him. And they know that if they blitz here, it's going to be an unblocked guy. They know that they don't shift their blocking prior to the snap. So,
I thought that was more having to do with the pass game than the run game.
I think that has to do with everybody. They don't, all of it. They try to simplify things, and I think they make it too simple. The problem with the offensive line, though, is talent. There isn't enough talent there, especially with Trent Williams gone. And even with Trent Williams, he was not himself this year. He has not been bad, but he has not been great either, and that is a change. So it's a problem. It's basically the last few years, it's been Trent Williams holds this offensive line up to being average overall because he is so great. And now that he's not great, you're seeing the truth of the matter, which is they have multiple starters on that line that are one of, if not the worst in the league at their position that's starting.
Brendel is 38th out of 38 centers ranked by PFF. There's only 32 teams, okay?
Yeah.
So he's behind even the backups on some other teams. It tells you, And it's not all his fault, of course, but he has certainly been a big part of the problem. Speaking of Trent Williams, Matt Barrows tweeted this. How about this? Trent was using a knee scooter to move around the locker room today. Even walking has been painful for him. Don't play Trent Williams this weekend. I know they need to win the game, but sorry. You know what I have to say? Jalen Moore was fine last week. He was fine. He wasn't amazing, but it wasn't like the Jalen Moore that we have seen at other points in his 49ers tenure where he comes in and he's a rusty gate over there. Trent, you're at the point in the season where you don't ask Trent Williams to do this, right? He's only got so many of those type of games left in him. This is not one of the weeks where you ask him to summon that up.
I would not play him. If he can't even walk right now, I would not play him. The question I would have is, if he can't even walk, and we're 2 weeks now into this, you didn't want to do IR?
Well, what? Oh, you mean just put him on IR for the rest of the year?
Yeah, just put him on IR. You can see if he wants to come back in 4 weeks, but like if he can't even walk after 2 weeks, there's something wrong there. It's not it's not an ankle sprain at this point.
No. If it is, it's the most severe sprain of all time. How about this? Fred Warner revealed he's been playing on a fractured ankle. It occurred during that game against the Patriots. He's been injected with painkillers before every game since. We thought that he was playing through an injury. Now we have it confirmed. And I'll just say this. Go watch the film. If you go watch the JT O'Sullivan breakdown of the Packers game, even on a fractured ankle, there's a play where Fred Warner is running stride for stride with one of the Packers wide receivers down the field. That is friggin' incredible by Fred Warner that even then he could do that. But we're seeing, right? Everybody's revealing all this stuff. They kind of know, right? They kind of know where this season is going. There's a reason this is all coming. Everybody's kind of in cover your ass mode a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say that's it is what it is. I would have personally come out with it a little sooner, but that is Fred Warner saying, hey, it's not my fault. I'm doing all I can here, basically.
Kind of.
Now, I'm at the point that I don't let him play on that. Season's over. I know they think, well, we're only 1 game out of the division. I don't care. Are you winning anything this year? No. So how about you protect for next year? Fred Warner should not play on that fractured ankle. How long? What kind of fracture is it? Like, that would be my follow-up. What kind of fracture is it, and what's the timetable for returning from it? If you play on it, could it get considerably worse to where now you're not ready for next year? Like, those are all questions. Same with, like, Bosa's hip. If it's not getting better, which he's not practicing still, so it seems like it's a little serious, then don't let him play on it. Save him for next. The shift should be, what about next year? That should be the primary focus. Make sure everybody that you possibly can is healthy at the start of next year. Past that, now you concentrate on this season and what's left.
I agree. Like, part of the preparations for 2025 should begin now. And, they can sit there and say, we're still in it and all that stuff. I don't really care about that. I care more about what they do. Their actions will mean more to me than anything that they say this week. But I do think it's interesting that all of this stuff is now coming out. Brock Purdy will be listed as limited today, but don't forget he was limited last Wednesday in practice. He did not throw last week. Kyle was specifically asked, is Brock Purdy going to throw this week? And he didn't commit to it. He said, we'll see when we get out there. So It's very possible that it's another Brandon Allen start on Sunday night.
I think it's highly likely it's still a Brandon Allen start. I would have liked to follow up there, and I know it's hard because the 49ers run a ridiculous press conference. Very short and very limited in getting questions. But I would have liked to follow up there that said, when is the last time he threw? What is he able to do?
Well, he threw on Monday. He threw lightly on Monday.
I guess I missed that. But you know what I mean? Like, what is he capable of doing now? And what was he capable of doing immediately after the injury?
And if he's plays, is he going to be willing to throw the ball 20 yards down the field? Because you kind of need that. Like, you can't get by on checkdowns all the time. And I'm sure the Bills have watched the tape of his last start and they saw it. And, I respect him wanting to play, but you got to do what's best for the team. And a Brock Purdy that's not willing to throw the ball down the field and do the thing that made him into the guy that could potentially get a big contract after this season, you can't have him out there.
And don't forget, there's been rumors that he has elbow fatigue as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if that needs rest and it hasn't come around, what's he going to do? He's going to compensate for the elbow by putting more stress on the shoulder. So if the elbow's fatigue is not gone, you don't want to play him either, because all he's going to do is hurt that shoulder again.
Bay Marin, YouTube channel member. What's up, Bay? Says Fred injured, Trent injured, Brock injured, Deamador Lenore injured, Jawan Jennings injured, Kittle, as always, a patchwork. It seems that Tabor Pepper is the only one feeling well because it's illegal to hit Taylor Pepper basically when he's on the field. So that may be a contributing factor. It feels like 2020, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah. I mean, he left out Bosa. Like,
right.
He named what? We got 7 people named there, and one of them is not Nick Bosa. That's how bad it is.
It just goes to show the incredible health they had last season. You know, I mean, it was unbelievable.
What all pro, whether former or last year, all pro has not had health problems this year on this team? I don't think there is one, because you got Ayuk as well. Deebo missed time as well. I don't think there is an all pro on this roster that has not missed time with an injury.
Did Juice miss time?
I don't count that as an all pro. It's a position that I don't. It's a position in the past, absolutely, because 32 teams used a fullback. Now there are like 8 to 10 teams that use a fullback. I'm sorry, that's not a position that should be getting an all pro anymore.
Yeah. Fred Warner, I'm just reading some quotes, said, "It's something I deal with, the fractured ankle. It's something I deal with before every game. I get on that table before every game and get shot up just to be able to roll. It's not an excuse. That's the NFL. You're not going to be healthy. It was a fracture when I sprained it. Anytime you fracture a bone, if you continue to play on it, the bone's not going to be able to heal itself. So you've just got to be able to fight through." Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, there's no need to put Fred Warner out there.
Like I said, it depends. My dad fractured his ankle when he was in his mid-40s playing soccer. He thought it was an old age thing. It swelled up after a couple of weeks and went down. He played on it again. It would swell up after a couple of weeks. It would go down, so he played on it again. He did that for an entire year until it swelled up and the swelling wouldn't go away, and he went in, and it has been 25 years, and he has not walked without a limp, because the bone fragment from a simple fracture floated around and sliced every last thing that was in that ankle, including ligaments and all that. So that's the risk of playing on it, is that bone fragment floats into a bad spot and starts cutting away at your ligament. So even if he plays on it and has the surgery and fixes the fracture, did his ligament get damaged? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of possibilities here. I don't know the extent of his fracture. It could be a very minor one. It could be one that doesn't have a bone shaving floating around. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not good. By like, what is the point? You know, like we talked about. So part of preparing for 2025 begins now. And I just don't see the reason why you force Fred Warner to go out and play. And I know he probably wants to play, but there's just no reason to do it. There is no reason to do it. And I hope that the 49ers don't, unfortunately. Billy Garza says, "You ain't no doctor, Levin. So stop pretending to be one."
And it's like I said, I don't know the extent of his, but any fracture, if they were 8-3, I would say, yeah, keep playing on it. It's, you know, even if they were 7-4, especially, you know, if they were, there's two opposite ends of the spectrum. If they're 11-0, I say sit for a couple of weeks, try to give it some rest. We don't need you. If they were this record or worse, it's you're not playing at all. If they were 6-5 right now, tied for the division lead, I would say he keeps playing on it. I do think that one game is a massive difference.
They're just not in that spot right now. So I agree with what you're saying. A lot of injury news coming out hasn't really affected the spread too much as we check right now. It's Bills -7. 49ers have not been 7-point underdogs in a long, long time. Niners are plus 255. So if you bet $100, you win $255. Vegas is pretty confident that the Bills are going to win. But if you want to bet the game, please do it with BetUS. They sponsor this show. You can receive 150% on your first deposit with 125% on your second and third deposit, all the way up to $2,000. All you have to do is use our promo code YouTube150. That's code YouTube150 to get the deposit bonus. And remember, BetUS has a fast and easy withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year. You call them up tomorrow on Thanksgiving, somebody's there to help take care of you. So please, if you're going to make a bet, do it with BetUS. I was thinking about this, Levin. When is the last time that you went into a game, a 49ers game, where you're legitimately like, I would be completely stunned if the 49ers found a way to win this game? It has been a long time for me.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would imagine that there was one in the 2020 season, but I can't remember the schedule off the top of my head. And at the same time, isn't that the no, sorry, that was a couple of years prior. I was going to say, isn't that the Nick Mullins emergence year where he had that phenomenal start, but that was 2018, was it not?
Yeah, I think it was 18.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would imagine in 2020, I mean, things were bad and literally everybody was out. So if they played a good team towards the end of the year, I would have said, yeah, they got zero shot. So I would imagine it's 2020, but it could be sooner than that.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Chiefs games, people might say some of the Chiefs, but like I'm talking about like legitimately stunned. It's like it's new territory, you know? We
like
got
even the 2017 Jaguars game when the Jaguars were a dominant team playing for the number one seed in the AFC. I wasn't going to be stunned if they won. I thought that they had potential as a team. Kittle had emerged, and I saw potential there with Jimmy.
Yeah, that feels like a lifetime ago. Violet XRP says it's a snow game. It might be a snow game. The National Weather Service had predicted like a potential significant snow event, but it's like that weird lake effect snow. So it could be a situation where like right now, I think it's only projected to snow like 3 inches, but then all of a sudden it's game time and it's boom, like blizzard conditions, or it could be absolutely nothing. So the weather report leading up to the game is, you can't really count on that.
Buffalo is maybe worse than any other city in the U.S. in terms of every single day there's a possibility of major snow in winter. Like,
do you think that snow helps or hurts the 49ers' chances of an upset? Because I think it helps.
I would have to say helps. It's weird to say that because, like you said, the Niners haven't been underdogs, but it's been proven time and time again. Bad weather helps the lesser talented team.
I agree.
Does that slow down Josh Allen and his scrambling and make him be a pocket passer? Which I don't have a ton of faith in the Bills wide receivers getting open without Josh Allen doing scrambling around and buying time. So if Josh Allen loses the mobility aspect, yeah, I like the Niners' chances of being able to limit that offense.
Now, if it's snow, Josh Allen may run a hell of a lot more, which would make sense, which the 49ers have had trouble with. And frankly, everyone has had trouble with Josh Allen running this year. But I do think snow helps. It generally helps offense because the offensive guys know where they're going and the defensive guys don't. So if that happens, maybe that helps all the offense and the defenses totally go into the tank. I have 3 things that you need to pull off an upset when you are the lesser talented team. And especially if Brock Purdy is out, the 49ers would certainly be the lesser talented team. Do you want to know what they are?
Sure.
Number 1, at the bare minimum, don't turn the football over, but in reality, you've got to turn them over a couple of times. You have to, because you have to steal possessions. So that's number 1. Play a clean freaking game. And this 49ers team has not been able to do it lately. It's incredibly frustrating. Number 2, you've got to steal yardage from somewhere. You can't always be having to go 80 yards down the field all the time. You're not going to be able to do it, particularly with a backup quarterback. You need to steal yardage, whether that comes from a turnover that sets you up or a return on a turnover, or dare I say it, Levin, a big return on special teams. You have to be able to do it. They almost got it last week from Deebo. That was exactly what they needed to get them back in that game. Now, ultimately, it didn't count, but they're going to need it Because like I said, you can't ask your offense to have to do that again and again and again.
Yeah, to sum it up in a little bit, I would say better way is you need multiple explosive plays.
I wouldn't say better.
You,
What do you mean better?
it's better. You need multiple explosive plays. You're not going to beat a more talented team by methodically going down the field like the 49ers usually do. You need 40-plus yard gains, whether that's returns or whether that's offensive plays. You need multiple plays that could have been limited gains that became massive, huge gains, because that's what swings the fate.
And the last thing I think you need, because I'm just going to skip past you trying to improve upon the genius I already laid out there, you need good game management. You need to get more aggressive on fourth downs. You need to kick fewer field goals. You are the less talented team. Kicking field goals is even worth less than it normally is. You have to be willing to be aggressive. John Harbaugh the other night, 4th and inches deep in his own territory. He goes for it. Why? He said, because you needed to keep possession of the football. The best way to stop Josh Allen is to keep his ass on the sidelines. That is the best way, because as good as Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and elite quarterbacks are, they can't do a damn thing on the sideline. So you have to be willing to do that, and you have to be willing to say, yeah, this could be disaster and take us right out of the game immediately, but we have no shot anyway. And unless you acknowledge that, I don't know that Kyle's going to be willing to do it. And I don't think he's going to be willing to do it because it would be a big difference from what he has done in his tenure. But when you are the lesser talented team, especially on the road, there is no like, well, we'll just try and no, you got to take it. And I don't think they're gonna, but they should.
Let me summarize that one real succinctly. You need a fuck it attitude.
Right.
That's what you need. If you got that, you got a chance. You need to, like you said, we don't have a chance if it's all, fair and square. We have got to play dirty. We have got to try to not cheat, but you know what I'm getting at. You got to try to do the unorthodox to steal possessions.
You have to, because your defense is not going to be good enough. We have seen it. I just saw a tweet from, now I'm never going to be able to find it because now I want it. But essentially, the 49ers EPA per play in the first half is like 6th in the NFL. It's very, very good. But in the second half, it goes all the way down to like 23rd, something like that. Like this team in the second half, offensively, defensively, they fall off a little bit. So it's just another reason to go out there and be freaking aggressive. You have nothing to lose. Kyle will never look at it that way, because he's going to be like, no, we could lose the game. And what about our playoff chances? We're a game and a half out in the division. First of all, you're more than a game out because they have all the tiebreakers. Second of all, like, just be realistic about where you are. Just be realistic about it. If nothing else, you build up, I think, a little goodwill in that locker room where you're like, you know what? Yeah, he had confidence in us. We're going for it. Why the hell not? I don't do it.
It's the typical cheerleader refrain chant. That's what he needs. The be aggressive, be aggressive. That you hear in every single stadium everywhere. That's what he needs. That he needs to be playing that in his car as he's driving to work every single day.
Yeah. Something tells me that's not what's on his speakers. Scott Brown says, you are the less talented team. Man, what a shot in the gut. Times have changed. That's the point, Scott. Times have changed. And if you can't acknowledge that, then you've got no chance to fix things. And I feel like we haven't had enough of that acknowledgement from this 49ers team. And maybe, it could be the kind of thing where next year we'll hear all the stories of, well, we knew last year, when we lost that game, but they got to acknowledge it. Acknowledge it now.
Completely agree. They are not as talented. Now, if they were 100% healthy, I don't think they're the most talented team if everybody's healthy anymore in the NFL. But I think if they had everybody healthy, they would probably be on par with this Buffalo team. I think this Buffalo team is extremely talented in a super important position, and they're okay elsewhere. You know what I mean? They don't have a great offensive line. They don't have great receivers. They don't have a great running back. Their defense doesn't have a huge weakness, but it also doesn't have any big strengths either. They're just kind of like a team that limits mistakes. And, oh, by the way, we have Josh Allen.
And a lot of times that's all it takes, right? Especially when Josh Allen is playing as well as he's playing. The Bills are 7th in points per game allowed. They allow just about 19.5 points per game. They score 29 points a game. That's 3rd in the NFL. So they're gonna put up points for sure. Sean Turner says, give him a break. The Mariners have a real shot this year. Ha ha ha. Sean, you can't hurt me. There's nothing you could say that could possibly hurt me more than the experience of being a Mariners fan for the last 35 years has hurt me. So feel free. Like, good luck. I am bulletproof.
That comment is on my level. You know, the Niners are having a terrible year. You were talking about how everything has gone wrong. Everything's bad. And then, oh, by the way, here's a curveball to hit you in the face.
Gee, thanks. I did want to get to one last thing. And maybe this is my copium. And if you want to say it's copium, that's fine. You know, we got 6 weeks left in this season. And I don't want to be miserable for the next 6 weeks. Like, I just don't. I would prefer to at least try to be happy. We got the holidays coming up. I don't want to be miserable. And I'm going to be watching this team.
What's 6 weeks after 11 weeks of that? Come on now. You're already 2/3 of the way.
Right. But it's like, I don't want to be. And so I'm shifting my mindset when I watch these games now, because I think for a lot of this year, a lot of 49er fans have been like, there's this standard of play that they have to reach, and they haven't played up to that, and they have been failing. And I've been watching with that sort of mindset too. But I'm trying to shift my expectations for these last 6 weeks. Now, instead of looking for the bad or seeing where they fall short, I'm going to try and look for the good. I just have to, because I don't want to be miserable for 6 weeks. I want to look at Dominic Pooney, Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, if he gets in there, Malik Mustafa, D. Winters. How are these guys playing? I want to look at the guys that I think are going to be part of the solution when this team turns it around, and seeing if we've got something there and how good they can be. And are these guys going to be sort of the pillars upon which we build our church, for lack of a better metaphor?
I'm at the point, and I said this in the instant reaction, I can deal with losing, especially now with all the injuries. If they lose, I can accept that, because I'm not really expecting wins anymore. But if they lose, because like last week, they make a bunch of critical penalties, a bunch of just stupid plays that cost them, that I cannot deal with. I can't deal with losing because of mental mistakes. I can't deal with losing because of undisciplined play. I can deal with losing, like, let's say they go out there and they try to run the ball and there's just no holes. I can deal with just not being talented enough. I dealt with it for almost an entire decade straight as a Niners fan, pushing 40, right? The early 2000s up until Harbaugh was just every game knowing you're not the more talented team in this game. So you just hope something happens. But it's how you lose that I care about now. If you lose just because you weren't good enough with all the injuries, I accept that. If you lose because you got people like Deebo dropping the ball, I can't accept that, and I'm going to be pissed off again.
And by the way, Deebo Samuel, did you see the quote from his podcast?
Yeah.
That was just so infuriating to me.
Well, they didn't ask for me, and usually they come for you in the first 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes, I just left because it's like, oh, bullshit.
No, not that quote, which, yeah, that was another quote that he said when he was asked about, did you refuse to talk to the media? He was like, no, they didn't let me know that they needed me after the game, so I left the locker room. It's like, dude, guys stay in the locker room and answer questions. Like, and again, that just annoys the hell out of me. But that's not the one I was talking about. There was another quote from his show where he was asked about, his down season. And he said, I see a lot of fans saying Deebo's production is a little off, but when the opportunity presents itself, you can't show me where I haven't shown up. I always said, control the things you can control and just move on from there. I don't know if
I can show plenty of ways he hasn't shown up. What the hell is he talking about?
That's what I mean. Like, who's going to tell him? Last week, Deebo, the ball's in your hands. The team is driving with a chance to make it a one-score game on third down in a clutch play, and clang, the ball goes off your hands and it's intercepted, and the game is essentially
not just clang. He ducked.
He tried to turn his body, and he
was scared of getting lit up.
I don't want to get heated either, but like, you're the number one wideout. You were paid like the number one wideout. You're supposed to be that guy that catches that ball and takes that hit. So for him to sit there and say, well, you can't show me where I haven't shown up, dude, you haven't shown up for this entire season except for like one game on a busted coverage against the Seahawks. Like, what are we talking about? And the fact that you can't own up to take responsibility for that just shows the type of player you are. And it shows why you shouldn't be a captain on this team.
Yeah. How about the -7 yards rushing inside the 10-yard line? How about the fact that you're not leading the league in yak anymore? How about you haven't had a single massive play that looked like a Deebo play this entire season? Like you said, the one long one he has was a complete bust coverage. It wasn't Deebo gets it 10 yards down the field and then weaves his way through traffic and breaks a tackle or two on his way to a 50-yard gain. There's been zero of that. He is not himself. This is the number one Deebo, not the number 19 Deebo. And I don't recognize this number one Deebo, and I don't want to recognize it. I don't want number one Deebo being on this team anymore.
Yeah, number one Deebo is not good Deebo. I think we both can acknowledge that. By the way, I just saw something on Twitter. Fred Warner's been playing with a fractured ankle since the Patriot game. Has he even been on an injury report? Like,
nope.
Single time?
Don't think so.
Like, man.
At some point, the NFL should put it this way. The Niners have lied enough on their injury report. They should have a massive fine. But the NFL, I think, has kind of gone back to, unless our hands really forced because there's a media uproar about it, we're not going to do that. But, I mean, Brock Purdy wasn't on the injury report right away. It was only when he was going to have to be limited in practice did he suddenly get added. I'm trying to remember the other one from recent weeks where they didn't even know. Maybe Trent Williams. Might have been Trent Williams they said, oh, yeah, he was dealing with an ankle going into that game and nobody knew from, I think, 3 weeks ago. And then all of a sudden it was, yeah, he might not be able to play this week because his ankle's screwed up.
It's been a festival this year. As a 49ers fan, Xandro96 on Twitch, shout out to the Twitch fam, says, let's be honest, the 2021 season was outstanding, and since then, Deebo has never produced within the expectation. I think he will not be on the team next season, and maybe it's for the better. I think it's definitely for the better. Like, as a captain and a leader in the locker room, and he's a leader because he's been a veteran guy that's been through the wars, so whether he's a captain or not, he's still a leader. I don't want that guy setting the tone. I want guys like Fred Warner setting the tone, playing on a friggin' fractured ankle. That's who I want setting the tone. I don't want a guy who has a terrible game, makes a crucial mistake, and then leaves the locker room. And then when it gets brought up, says, oh, they didn't tell me I had to go. Dude, Fred was there after the game. Fred was the one saying this was one of the worst losses he's ever been a part of, saying it was embarrassing. George Kittle was there after the game. Like, nah, man, I'm all set, Deebo. Thanks for that one good year, and we'll see you when we see you.
Yeah, real quick. I do see somebody reminding me it's the Brandon Allen broken finger. That's the one I was thinking about recently. Mm-hmm. Broken finger and not on an injury report at all. You literally have a broken bone. But no, in terms of Deebo, it would be for the better. I am not convinced he will be gone next year because they stupidly, and it was criticized at the time by some of us, changed his contract. They'd made it not very hard. It makes it more difficult to get rid of him. Basically, it has to be a post-June trade or cut now. The problem is there's only so many post-June cut you want to do. And Hargrave's already going to occupy one of those. Because Hargrave goes from, I can't remember how much it is prior to June 1st, but it's like a $15 million difference, I think. It's somewhere in that ballpark. It's a massive difference cutting him after June 1. So Hargrave will be a post-June 1 cut. Do you want to do another one with Deebo? And if you don't, well, then it costs you cap space. You could cut him or trade him prior to June 1st and still save, I think it was $7 million if memory serves. Now it costs you a couple million to do that.
Deebo Samuel pre-June 1st would be a $31.5 million cap hit. If you do
Which is an increase over what it would be. If you can't just look at the overall cap hit. You got to compare it to what it's going to be and what you get.
Right. And the post-June 1st cap hit would be $10.7 million in 2025 of dead money. I think they should do it anyway. So
I think you need a tone setter. and changing him is a tone setter.
It sends
we
a
don't care what you did before.
Yep.
You got to have the right attitude or you're gone in. He does not have the right attitude, and I would argue he never did. He is the front runner that he likes to criticize.
And I think that it does send a message to the team. It's not the same old, same old. That era is over. We're not that team anymore. We have to build it up again. You got to get to that mentality where you're building it up instead of just trying to patch holes in the dam, so to speak. I think it would send that message. We'll see if it ultimately happens. I know that when I talked with Grant last week, he was steadfast in his belief that Juice would be back next season and Deebo would be back next season. I mean, if Juice is back next season, Levin, what the hell? Like, he can't come back.
Look, I've said they need to break up the Cabo clique, and Juice is the easiest one to do that with, but he also costs very little. So are you going to get rid of him to save $1 to $2 million? Probably not. I wouldn't be surprised if Juice is back. I do think they need to reset, and I do think Kyle has created a bit of a bubble for himself. He was asked in the press conference today what the locker room is like, and he said, when I go around the locker room, it's the same I've always seen. It's like, yeah, because all you do is look at the Cabo guys. You look at your little group of mostly captains that their crap still don't stink and never will to each other. So they're not as down as they should be. Like, you got to get past that, because I would bet there are people that are towards the end of the roster that are frustrated because they're not getting opportunities because Kyle's still showing loyalty. You think Jordan Mason is real happy right now? I would doubt it, because he showed what he can do. And Kyle's saying, I would rather play this other guy just because of what he's done in the past.
Even though the past was last year when he was the offensive player of the year. But I get what you're saying. Clearly, I think I would agree with you. There are people in that locker room that would say, hey, I think there's things that we should be doing. Things aren't totally great. I think, number one, that is with every team. But when you're not winning, those things matter more. And so, yeah, I saw that question. I would have loved to follow up. It's like, who do you check in with when you check the vibes of the locker room? Because that's a revealing.
Juice, Brock, and Kittle, probably.
Juice, Brock, Kittle, Fred. It's like, yeah, that's cool, Trent. But, and yeah, maybe he does have that bubble. And we'll see.
Can I just state, nobody's really talking about it, but 100% Jordan Mason should demand a trade in the offseason. 100%.
What's his deal?
I think he's a restricted free agent, so the Niners can easily match.
Oh, yeah. And if they want him, he won't be.
Right. So to me, Jordan Mason should be saying, I will not be back with the Niners. I deserve an opportunity to start. Trade me. Like, to me, if I'm him, I start the offseason by telling the Niners, I want the opportunity to start. I cannot get that here. I understand, because Christian McCaffrey is the other guy. So let me go. And if they don't, then you go public. But that's where Jordan Mason should absolutely, he is the one person on this roster that should absolutely say, I will not play for you next year.
And then the 49ers will laugh and be like, he didn't play for us when you were on the team anyway, so we're fine.
Yeah, I do think some team out there, probably a third of the teams, would give him a starting chance because of what he showed prior to Christian McCaffrey coming back. Well, somebody like the Cowboys, I think, should jump on him.
Yeah, they should. But they would have to put a tender on him, right? They'll have to say we put a certain method, it's a third round tender, second, whatever it is.
I'm guessing they'll do the third round, because the second round, to put the second round tender on you, it comes with a certain price tag, and I think that's too expensive. I can't remember the number off the top of my head for a running back.
They don't want to pay him that much money.
Right.
So, yeah, that'll be interesting. I agree with you. He has not been used. I'm certain he hasn't been used as much as he wants to be used. Let's do one little piece of, hold on. First of all, we got a super chat from Valerie. Thank you so much, Valerie. That's very generous of you. Says, has Brandon Allen ever played in inclement weather? Happy Thanksgiving to you both. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Valerie, and everybody out there. Thank you. I don't know if has he?
He played in college in Wyoming. Yes.
Oh, God. Yes, he absolutely has.
He quite literally is probably the best cold weather quarterback in the entire league. Because one, doing well in cold weather for quarterbacks has a lot to do with hand size. because your grip gets weakened because your hands are cold. The bigger your hand, the easier it is to still control a football. He has massive hands. 2, he has a ton of experience playing in cold weather.
The best cold weather quarterback in the league is Brandon Allen. That's a statement.
I'm thinking Josh Allen. Sorry. I'm off. That makes a lot more sense. You should have corrected me when I said he played at Wyoming.
Well, I didn't know where Brandon Allen went to college. Where did he go to college?
I can't remember where he went to college. He does probably have cold weather because when he started in Cincinnati, I want to say a couple of the starts were late season Cincinnati, which would be outdoors.
He was Arkansas. So not Josh Allen.
No.
Oh, man. Yeah.
You should have corrected me when I said Wyoming.
Well, not only did Josh Allen play at Wyoming, he's also played in Buffalo for years. So, yeah. Josh Allen, great in the cold weather. Brandon Allen, not really great anywhere. Let's just be honest. But thank you, Valerie, for the super chat. I very much appreciate that. I want to get to one piece of somewhat good news because I feel like it's been kind of a downer show, and it is the day before Thanksgiving. Nick Bosa says he's feeling better and could do some non-team stuff in practice this week. Quote, it's feeling a lot better. Still need to get better before I'm ready to go. So this week will be big, and I know I'll know a lot more in the next couple of days. So at least that's somewhat encouraging from one of the team's best players.
Yeah.
Here comes the wet blanket. Here it comes.
You don't risk them. Hey, it's the middle of the week, and I'm not sure that I can play. Oh, okay. Season's done, so no, you're not going to play this week.
Yeah, I'm on board with that, but I just wanted people to at least know that, like, it's not like a, oh my God, season's over, done and done type of injury. That's at least encouraging. Last thing I want to get to on the show before we end for Thanksgiving, since I did mention his name, I haven't talked about this publicly, but it's something that everybody here on the Gold Standard side knows. I won't be doing shows anymore with Grant. If you saw our last show, it's not the kind of show that I want to have, frankly. And it had gotten contentious with us the last few episodes, and I don't want to do that kind of show. And Grant didn't want to do it either when I talked to him about it. Like, that's not what I want. Like, oh, I get it. It's great content. I don't want to have those type of shows. So we just decided it'd be better if we didn't do the shows together anymore. I don't really have a plan for Wednesday. I'm going to try to bring on some different guests here and there. So I'll be sort of piecing that together and had a couple things in the works that didn't ultimately come to fruition, but I'll come together with a plan. Worst comes to worst, I'll do a show. We could do a call-in show, whatever. But I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Grant was incredibly supportive of me when I went out on my own. He encouraged me to do it. He gave me a lot of useful tips about YouTube and how it works and expressed confidence that I could do it. And he was willing to do a show with me right away. And I'll always be forever grateful to him for that. I told him to that when we talked and made this decision. And that's pretty much, I wish him well. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about it. But I did want to address it just so everybody knows what's up. Like I always say, I don't promise 100% accuracy on the show with my takes and predictions, but I do promise 100% authenticity. And I'm just being real with everybody.
And you have your hands full already dealing with me. So.
Well, that is readily apparent. Talk about things that don't need to be said. I mean, geez, let's be honest about that. But no, I am incredibly thankful for you, Levin, and everything you do, both on the air and off the air. You're always willing to help out. You always offer suggestions. You do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. I could not do this without you. So thank you.
You're welcome. You are deserving of it most of the time.
Gee, thank you.
I couldn't be completely sincere.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
It feels weird to me to even say that.
I know. I don't know if you're fully.
I am not a person that's capable of. I do not like. It's hard for me to not want to crack a joke. I am somebody that's going to crack a joke in all situations. When things are like terrible, like something horrible just happened, my knee-jerk reaction and what's going through my mind is, let's crack a joke to try to lighten this.
Right.
Sometimes that gets me in trouble because sometimes there are situations that are bad enough. No joke's going to be appropriate.
Maybe just shut up this time. Yeah. So thank you. Also, Grant, unblock me on Twitter, please. Although now it doesn't matter because I could still see his tweets anyway, which makes the block function all but useless. But whatever.
Ditto.
Yeah, that's true. We're both blocked by you. One last thing before we go, just thank you to BetUS for sponsoring the video. Once again, if you want to sign up for BetUS, use our promo code. It's YouTube150 to get the deposit bonus, please. And thank you to them for sponsoring this video. Levin, are you going to join me for the instant reaction show after the game?
Nope. I will be at work.
Uh-huh.
It's a Sunday Night Football. I wish I could join you because I think there's a very high likelihood that it is the instant reaction that gets titled The Death of Kyle Shanahan 49ers version 1.0.
Yep. This era, the deep and dying breath will be on Sunday Night Football in front of a national audience. That's not the way you want to go out. I want to go out anonymously in the 1 o'clock window of games where no one really cares. Instead, we're going to do it on national TV. But hey, that's the way these things go. We'll see how it plays out. Good, bad, or ugly. We'll be live after the game. We're live after every 49ers game. We're live every single weekday here on the channel. We do a 5-minute 49ers news update every weekday morning. Please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. I promise we won't let you down. Good, bad, or ugly. Happy holidays, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. And we'll talk to you later this week.
Enjoy the pie.